Hi everyone, I'm golf instructor Steve Bishop for the Gateway to Better Golf, and today I thought I'd show you a video on kind of a question that I get regularly from the more upper to middle handicap players, or the people that are really just kind of starting out in the game. But some of you guys will probably get a kick out of this, even if you are a single digit handicap. You might find this kind of a useful thought to help you guys kind of refocus yourself on what it is you need to accomplish while you're on the golf course. Because a lot of times when you get kind of mentally confused about what should we be trying to do, we're doing so many things in our golf swing that we forget some of the more essential things. And this kind of thought that I want to give to you should help you refocus yourself and get you back on track to what you need to do to start hitting the golf ball well again. So I wanted to talk to you guys about how you get the golf ball airborne. How do you get it actually up in the air? Okay. And a lot of people talk about solid contact. And solid contact, for those of you who don't know, is really essentially where you're trying to find the center of the club face and make sure that the golf ball hits somewhere in the middle of the club face. And that's going to give you a better transfer of energy from the golf club to the golf ball and makes the golf further and all that good stuff. But why does it make the golf ball go airborne? Okay, and that's what we're going to discuss a little bit here today. So I'm going to kneel down here and just kind of show you. I actually have a line drawn around the middle of the golf ball here. And if you think about this as if it was the Earth, you have a North Pole and you have a South Pole, and then you also have this thing called the equator. Okay, so golf balls also have an equator. They have this central point somewhere halfway between the North Pole and the South Pole. And what you're essentially needing to do is you need to, in order to get the golf ball airborne, is you've got to make some sort of energy, okay, some sort of energy transfer that causes the golf ball to get lifted, right, or kind of move up in this direction. And the thing that does that is actually already built into your golf club. And that's this thing called loft. That's this inclined plane that's on the edge of the golf club. So your golf club, if you look at your golf clubs carefully, you'll see that like the 3 irons or the 3 woods or the drivers that you have in your golf bag, that inclined plane at the end is more like this, right? It's more upright, right? It's more straight up and down. But the more lofted clubs, your lower ended clubs, this is a 6 iron, so it's kind of middle of the road, has a greater incline to it. And then your pitching wedges and sand wedges, they're going to be more like this. They're going to have that incline plane is going to be very flat and almost be facing the sky much more. Well, that is what actually causes the golf ball to go up into the air. But I want to talk to you about the specifics of why that actually happens. So let's go back to our golf ball where we have the equator. Okay, we have the equator of the golf ball. Well, the point of contact, that is where this golf club and the golf ball meet, okay, when you're swinging one. Let me just get my fingers lined up here. So where the actual point of contact is that the golf club meets the golf ball, if you look really carefully, that point of contact is somewhere right about in here, right? So this is my 6 iron. That point of contact is actually, here, let me get it sloped correctly here. Okay, that point of contact is actually down here below the equator of the golf ball. And it's essentially, if you take that point of contact, okay, and you were to draw a line straight through the golf ball from that point of contact. So here we got our point of contact, okay, which I'm just going to show you is right about right here. And if you drew a straight line from that point of contact through the middle of the golf ball, okay, so about like that, that's the trajectory, about where the trajectory is. It might be about 85% in this direction. There could be a little bit of difference there because of different factors involved, but essentially that line, that trajectory that my finger is pointing on, is the trajectory that the golf ball will actually take off on. Okay, and you can see that's kind of an upward angle. And it's essentially, most people consider it a 90-degree angle from this club face. So if I were to draw a straight line up from my club face here at a 90-degree right angle, you can see my finger is pointing, right? So the point that it would go would be in the exact 90-degree direction or of where that club face is laying, okay? So, just to demonstrate this, I've got a big red ball here, okay? And this is my wife's exercise ball, but I'm going to use it here with this table. And I want you to think real carefully as you're watching me do this. Think about that middle line around the middle of this ball, okay? It's the equator of this ball right here, right? Okay? So I want you to think about that. You see that equator of the ball. You're going to see that as it hits this table, the point of contact, right, is somewhere below that equator. Hopefully you guys can see this. There we go. So you can see the point that the table makes contact with the golf ball, or with this big red ball, is somewhere below the equator, right? It's on the bottom. It's somewhere around in this area here. And that's what's going to cause this ball to go upwards in this direction. So here we go, okay? I'm going to try to make this ball go essentially straight at this table. And it's just going to bounce up, right? Because once it hits here, it hits the point of contact is somewhere below the equator of this big red ball, and that causes it to pop up. Okay, so I'm clearly not picking the ball up, right, in order to make that ball get airborne. It's really the surface of the table that causes the ball to bounce upwards in an upward direction. It's almost 90 degrees, perpendicular to the surface of the table. So once again, we've got our golf ball here. We've got our club face here. And all we're really needing to do to achieve some sort of airborne direction for this golf ball is to make sure that that point of contact is somewhere here below the equator of the golf ball, okay? And the better you do at getting this leading edge of the club face to be lower to that golf ball without hitting the ground, okay, without hitting the grass behind it or hitting the dirt behind it, the better you're going to be at getting that point of contact to be somewhere below the equator of the golf ball. The closer you get to the equator of the golf ball, you'll see that the leading edge, like here, if I'm hitting a really thin shot, so I'm still below the equator of the golf ball, but because I'm so close to the equator, that point of contact is there, and with that point of contact being right about there, that means that that's going to be, if you draw a straight line through the center of the golf ball, that's not a very upward trajectory, right? That's kind of flat. And that's what you get the thin shot, right? You hear this term, hitting the ball thin. Well, that's what that is. You're essentially getting the leading edge of the club face to strike somewhere very close to the equator of the golf ball, but still slightly below. Now, what happens if you hit somewhere above the equator? Well, a lot of people, if you think about it, that are trying to get the golf ball airborne, they're doing something like this, right? Get this big red ball out of the way. They're doing some sort of swing. I said out of the way. There we go. They're trying to do something to lift it, right? They're trying to help it up into the air, and they have some sort of big motion with their swing that is purposely picking it up, right? They're trying to do something with their swing motion to help elevate that golf ball. But what they're really doing is counterproductive to the whole point. Because once again, here we are with our golf ball with the center, the equator of the golf ball. And if I lift up with the club face, check this out. See if I can get a better shot here. So if I lift up, look at where the point of contact is between the club face and the golf ball. You can see it's clearly above the equator of the golf ball, right? So it's actually somewhere along the lines of right about here. And if you drill a line straight through the center of the golf ball from the point of contact, you'll see that that is, in fact, downwards, right? So the golf ball is here. But there's resistance, obviously, right? Because the golf ball's sitting on some ground, and trying to hit down on the golf ball into the ground is either, going to hit it actually into the ground if you do it really poorly, or it'll just most likely hit in the ground and then pop up as some sort of reaction to hitting the ground below it. So there you go. That is a bit more of an in-depth look at what makes the golf ball get airborne. So how does this translate to a thought, a swing thought in your brain, something you need to do that can help get you focused back on how to make that golf ball get airborne? Well, I'm constantly telling people the best way, the best thought that I found in order to help get that golf ball airborne is to just simply think about this leading edge of the golf club. Just watch it, just look at it, and try to make sure that that leading edge of the club face strikes somewhere below the equator of the golf ball. That's it. That's all you have to do. You're standing over that golf ball, you're thinking, gosh, I really got to get this thing airborne. Just make sure that that leading edge of the club face gets somewhere below the equator of the golf ball, or essentially the part of the golf ball you can see. You want to make that leading edge of the golf club of the club face disappear underneath the golf ball. And that should help you get refocused back onto getting good solid contact, getting the loft of the club to work for you instead of against you. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed, and please don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I know videos don't come too frequently nowadays because I don't have a full-time job out on the golf course anymore, but I thought I'd kind of share with you guys some stuff here and there, try to help you guys along with your golf. Anyway, so I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thank you.